So the finale of Obi-Wan Kenobi aired last night at 2 a.m. my time, and I had trouble sleeping afterward. And it was mostly because I didn't know what I thought about it. It took me a while to process. Yeah. But I'm just gonna tell you right now, this is gonna be spoiler heavy, and I think at the end I'll sort of wrap up the series as a whole. So yeah, let's just get into it. Episode 6 has a lot of really, really cool moments. Like some really cool action, some interesting character things. There's a lot of things that I liked about it. The camera work in particular is sometimes great, like really great. And then sometimes it's really wonky. Like, what's with the shaky cam? I don't like shaky cam. In the middle of the fight, Obi-Wan is buried under a bunch of rocks, right? And what I liked about this whole scene is that he's flashing to all of these different things that have happened in the past. Of course, the Anakin's turn, their fight, and all that kind of stuff. But what gets him out of it is him seeing Luke and Leia in his thoughts, and that's what gives him the strength to get out of it. I thought that was a really, really cool moment. Obi-Wan's strength when he gets out of there and he just starts pelting Vader with rocks, and I mean the sheer brutality of his attack is cool, but also like whoa, like when he is going after Vader's like life support systems or his breathing apparatus. I'm guessing that's a little bit of everything. It was like this is like really, really intense, and I will say I did feel like a sting of sadness, almost like feeling sorry for Vader when Obi-Wan like slashes him across the back. The sound that he makes is just, I don't know, it was kind of heartbreaking, and that was I didn't expect that. And when they're talking, of course, Obi-Wan is, slashed his helmet there, and you see Hayden's face behind the helmet. I mean, this is something that we've seen before in Rebels, but to see it in live action was really, I mean, it's pretty awesome. And you hear Hayden's voice mixed with James Earl Jones, and it was really, really cool. The line that kind of, it almost gave me the shivers was when he says, "I'm all that remains," and it switches to really, really good stuff. And Obi-Wan's apology, Ewan McGregor really seemed to be channeling something here, because it was the most emotive, I guess you could say, that I've seen him be in this entire series. And it was pretty awesome to see. You might be like, wow, you really like this. But I think there's going to be some separation here between me and some people, because to me, it actually kind of felt pointless. And let me explain. So he's buried under the rocks, right? And what gets him out is Luke and Leia, the future, right? The hope, the new hope, right? But if Jedi are peacekeepers and not soldiers, the way Mace Windu says, if that's what Jedi actually, deep down, Jedi are selfless and they only attack when attacked, it felt strange to go back after Vader. Like, I don't really understand what the point of that was, if not to kill him, to end it for good, right? He even says that, right? To end this for good. He says that in episode 5, I think. What was the point of all of that? Even though, like I said, I enjoyed a lot of it, and it was emotional, and it was striking, but it doesn't really fit in with the way that I see Obi-Wan. Like, I feel like Obi-Wan at that point, he would have gotten himself out, and then, unless his point was to kill Vader, in which he failed at that too. So I'm really torn by that whole sequence. Now, I've said this many times on my past reviews. I am a big fan of Moses Ingram. I think she's amazing in everything I've seen her in. But she seemed pointless in this episode. I'm sorry, but it didn't work for me. And cutting back to her in the middle of this fight seemed like I was actually getting frustrated. Like, why are you going back to this right now? This is not where the driving force is, and it just, I don't know. And I even felt like even the way that her story ends was sort of like, okay, I didn't, it didn't connect for me. All that being said, when it comes to that subplot on Tatooine with Luke, I really, really enjoyed the scenes with Joel Edgerton and Bonnie P.S. as Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru. I loved seeing the love that they have for Luke. There's something strange that happened when I heard him talk about Luke the way he did. It made me feel like, yeah, that Luke grew up loved, and for some reason that really connected with me. But again, how did they get to all these planets so quickly? Like, I thought there was time involved in traveling from one place to another in hyperspace. That seems to be one of those things that it's just, if the plot requires it, they can just get there really fast, and that's annoying. The ending. There was some great stuff with Leia. There was some great stuff on Tatooine. I love the hello there. I mean, even though it's almost like a checklist of fan servicey kind of things. Seeing Qui-Gon, of course, all of that stuff was great. But at the same time, there was a weird feeling of manipulation that I felt. Like it was like, oh, no, 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 all those problems you have, it's not important because you really like this. And it just felt, I don't know, it felt a little icky in a weird way. Before the finale premiered, I made a plan to rewatch the entire series back to back to back to back to back to back. Right? I just wanted to watch the whole thing as one thing to see if it connected with me better, that it flowed better, and honestly, it really did. It was actually surprising to me how much more invested I was in the story because it was all connected. Episode 1 in particular, that's, to me, is the best episode of the entire series. It's the one that, I don't know, it does a really, really good job of making you feel for Obi-Wan, and that's important to me, because that's the name of the show. I really, really enjoyed seeing what life was like for him in this period. And then the scene between Leia and Bail Organa on Alderaan, I don't know why, but it almost made me emotional. It was like, that's a really, really good scene, and I really enjoyed that. It just hit different for me this time. In episode 3, there are two sequences that are just like, beautiful, beautifully written. And that is when Leia asks Obi-Wan, what does the Force feel like? And he asks, have you ever been afraid of the dark? And she says, yes. And he says, what does it feel like when you turn on the light? And she says, safe. And he goes, it feels like that. I really, really enjoyed that. I just thought it was poetic, but it was also put in a way that a child can understand. And it was really beautiful the way that they wrote that. Also in episode 3 is when Leia and Obi-Wan are in the back of that transport with the stormtroopers, and Obi-Wan slips and calls her Leia. And the way that he talks about Padme and how much, we all miss her and all that stuff, and the look on Leia's face, it really, I don't know, it just really connected with me this time more than it did originally, which was a surprise. And very good. And to me, honestly, the MVP of the whole series was Vivian Lyra Blair as Leia. I feel like she nailed the feeling of what you would think a young Leia would be like. I really enjoyed her performance. And you knew it was coming. We'll be watching her career with great interest, of course, yeah. And huge apologies to Natalie Holt. I'm sure very talented and all that, but I'm sorry. The music just did not work for me in this series. It reminded me of how I felt about Michael Giacchino's Rogue One score. The themes felt half baked. They felt very surface level and not like really deep. I don't know how to explain it. I mean, I used to be a musician, and I can't really put my finger on what I don't like about it, which is strange to me. But it's just both of them. it helps to me, a good score can deepen the emotions that you're feeling from the characters. And because I'm not connecting with the score, I'm not connecting with the characters. And it just, time and time again, I kept marveling at how plain the score was. And it just wasn't for me. And I've said this before, but even watching it again, back to back to back to back to back, all the way through, there are big inconsistencies in the blocking, the camera work, the effects are all over the place sometimes. Even in the same episode, you're like, what happened there? And then of course the storytelling, there are too many conveniences, and there's one really bad moment where you're like, what is this character thinking? This character shouldn't be doing this, and it doesn't make sense. I'm of course talking about Bail Organa sending a message to Obi-Wan with all the information and not knowing on whether or not he was captured at the time. So it was a bad choice. It was a bad choice. I mean, I get why it was done. I get that it was a plot device to get Reva to Tatooine. I get it, but it doesn't make sense for Bail to do that. It kind of broke things there for me. And really, after watching the entire series again, it just feels like mid-tier Star Wars, even bordering on the mediocre. Even though there are moments of greatness, there's a lot of low points and things that just completely rip me out of the spell of the story. And that's a bummer. And I will also say that this, and some people might disagree with this, but I don't think that it's necessarily harmful to the rest of the canon, even though, there's the conversation on the Death Star between Vader and Obi-Wan that now seems a little strange. There are things that don't quite connect. I don't feel it's anywhere near as harmful as some of the other Disney properties or Disney movies. You know what I'm saying? But I think that's what it is. It's just not great. I don't want my Star Wars to be merely okay. I want it to be great. I want it to transcend what I'd originally experienced and even add to things. And I just feel like this didn't do that. It didn't succeed for me. And that's a disappointment. And I guess for me, what it really comes down to is I feel like Disney is treating Star Wars almost like just another cog in the wheel, when I feel like Star Wars deserves to be the crown jewel. Star Wars is deep. It's layered, and there's beauty in Star Wars. And I just don't feel like they're reaching those levels. And like I said, I don't work at Lucasfilm. I don't work at Disney. I don't know what the answer is, but I just feel like, I mean, 2 series in a row where I just kind of feel like, and that's a bummer. So I hope I didn't irritate too many of you. I was a little inconsistent. I'm all over the place. There are things that are great. There are things that I don't like. But I'm curious. I'm curious what you're feeling at this point. What are your thoughts on Obi-Wan? What are your thoughts on Star Wars at Disney at this point? I mean, there's peaks and valleys. I'll just say that. At least that's how I feel. But I think in doing these reviews, in talking about it, it helps me to contextualize what is important to me about Star Wars. So let's have that discussion down in the comment section. So anyway, thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.